Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Can Man Show. I am Chad, the Can Man Canfeild. I mean, what?
Record scratch.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Back to Rotten Flesh Radio, everybody.
Yeah.
Welcome to Rotten Flesh Radio.
Welcome to Rotten Flesh Radio. This is episode 4 for Monday, June 7th, 2021. I'm your host, Dan, and that music you're hearing, as always, is from our good friends at Midnight Syndicate. And as a matter of fact, Ed, our friend of the show, just celebrated a birthday about 2 weeks ago. So I just wanted to send out a quick happy belated birthday, Ed. Thank you for what you've provided to Rotten Flesh Radio.
So, Midnight Syndicate's still a thing?
Oh, yeah.
I know, I'm just teasing.
Still doing it, and
they've been doing it for, what, ever?
Oh, boy.
20 years at least.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Just saw Ed at Transworld.
Yeah.
Just last month. So, word has it that they might actually have a big announcement sometime in the next couple of weeks. So, if you're not already following them on the social, now would be a great time to
Apparently, I am not.
Hunt them down. You're not following?
I haven't done haunted house stuff in, like, months.
I know. We'll get to that.
Okay.
That'll happen.
All
So,
right.
as you can see, things are slightly different tonight. Not only are we missing a couple of familiar faces, but we're also taking advantage of the amazing weather that Iowa has provided us with tonight. Spring lasts about 2 days in Iowa.
Oh, no. This year spring lasted a really long time, but it was a very cold, wet spring.
I guess if you wanted to call spring cold and wet.
Yeah.
But to me, spring is tonight. Yeah.
Okay.
So we get about 2 days worth of spring, and then we transition from freezing to sweltering heat, which is what's going to happen this weekend. I think they're talking about 90 to 100 degrees.
80, 89.
It's
90.
just going to be insane.
It's going to be warm in Iowa.
So here I am in my backyard with an old friend, and I'm going to read my notes because this is, Chad, I thought very carefully about this today.
Yeah? You gave up my name.
What?
You just told him who I was.
Well, I'll get there.
Sorry. I'm not used to holding the mic, and I feel like Ricky Bobby.
Coming at you like a spider monkey.
Yeah.
So, I am with an old friend. This guy's been like a big brother to me since we first met at Sunmart Foods. Don't tell them the story.
I don't
Nobody
have to.
wants to hear
You could listen to another
stories.
show to hear that story.
Oh, we did tell that story back
Several
then,
times,
didn't we?
probably.
Yeah, I'm sure we
You run
did.
out of stuff after like 100 episodes, then you rehash stuff
Oh, boy.
at least once.
Yeah, we've had some times. We've had a long time together, and I truly believe that RFR wouldn't exist without you and me, and without you.
Well, probably without you, too.
Well, yeah, that
But,
of course. Yeah,
yeah.
But
I was a podcaster before it was cool.
it was cool back then.
No, you had to be like a real nerd to
so it was
listen to
nerdy back
podcasts.
then.
Yeah.
And now it's cool.
Yeah.
I'm one of the cool kids, but you're one of the nerdy kids?
No, I'm just old.
Oh.
Er.
Oh. Yeah,
Than I was when I started my podcast.
the grays are showing.
Yeah.
I'm talking about mine, too.
Yeah.
They're in there.
I have a lot less hair than when I started.
Oh, Chad, we love you anyway. So, tonight, we're joined by the one and only Chad the
Canfields, but I'm the only one that goes by Can Man. I've met at least one other.
Chad Canfeild.
Chad Canfeild in Wisconsin. He is in a band called Richard Cranium. He was one of the founding members of Richard Cranium, and now he's in a band called Vardo, which is
Richard
really cool.
Cranium. Is that a play on?
Yeah, like Ted.
Ah.
Yeah. You can beep that out if you want, Topher.
I was baiting you, sorry.
No, yes.
But we all were thinking it.
Yeah, but yeah, no, yeah. So I had him on my show One of my last episodes that I did, like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. And so your show, just to go quick in case anybody's interested, was called The Can Man Show.
Yeah.
And I was on that for a while.
Yeah.
And that was the bulk of those episodes recorded 2009, 2010.
Something like that. Probably 11, 12, 13-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were talking about a lot of random geeky stuff back then, which probably wouldn't apply now. So if you're interested in stuff that was geeky 10 years ago.
Somebody said that they were in they're like out in their yard and they saw the mailman.
Chelsea, the owner of Circle of Ash.
Yeah, so Chelsea was saw somebody listening or heard somebody listening, like my voice was coming out of his pocket or something. And she goes, "Wait, I know that voice." And I guess it was the mail carrier.
Yeah.
That was listening. So
Listening to
apparently
classic.
people still listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's out there, right?
Yeah, oh yeah. Every episode, all 200 and something
Okay.
episodes. Yeah.
Wow.
It's not
But I
everybody's
was on
available
some
every time. And,
Classic episodes.
yeah. But,
Talking about body parts.
and you know what's
boxes.
funny is when back then we just did audio. We didn't do video. And
Yeah.
you know, I you could always tell when you run into somebody, they're like, "I love your show. I watch it all the time." Okay. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it.
To be honest with you, I don't know how many people are eventually going to just kind of drop from watching video, or if they're going to just continue listening to our audio, or because as beautiful as my yard is, we're not exactly, but I
Right,
think
cool.
we're good. Yeah, a little bit of a sausage fest on the screen, whatever. You know, it's
That's why. Because I had too many sausages.
So anyway, before we get too much further, Topher, Michaela, and I, we like to, at the beginning of every show,
Yeah.
we discuss what horrific things happened to us since we last met. And this can be anything from something literally horrific, like Topher found a dead animal in an engine block at work one day. And
What does Topher do nowadays?
he's a mechanic.
Wow. Last
car
I knew he
mechanic.
was in high school, so, you know, he at Kennedy. Last place I actually saw him and talked to him, he was at Kennedy. We were there for some sort of marching band carnival thing.
Okay.
So yeah, he was still in high school.
Wow.
So
So
Yeah.
witnessing the adult Topher that's fixing cars and finding dead animals in engine blocks.
That's
and
awesome.
So he brings that horrific thing that happened to him this week. And
met Michaela like once or twice.
Michaela doesn't have as much horrific sort of things happen to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just doesn't.
No, not really. You got to work on cars to find a dead animal in the
Yeah.
engine
I guess that is kind of horrific.
block. But she did enjoy the movie Hereditary, so at one point that was a horrific thing that she experienced.
Okay.
So, and Cordy and I went to see A Quiet Place too.
Oh, how was it?
I really enjoyed it. It was a quality flick.
Yeah.
It was really actually one of my favorite parts of the movie. It wasn't even part of the movie. It was the intro that John Krasinski did saying, "This is a theatrical experience."
Right.
It was basically his little snark at HBO and Warner Brothers, where Warner Brothers said, "Hey, we're going to put all of our movies for the next calendar year on HBO Max," and
Well,
people were watching Kong versus Godzilla on a teeny tiny screen. It was just
I have a
shame.
theater in my house, and I really appreciated that HBO put those on there, and I watched them on my 12-foot screen in my basement.
But most people wouldn't say
most
12
people-
feet. They would say 12 inches or
Yeah, but I mean,
5 inches.
being a
and that's-
person that has a theater in his basement and was deathly afraid of the pandemic, now that I'm
Right.
fully vaccinated, I'm really starting to not care
little
anymore.
more open than
Yeah, I'll wear a mask in Walmart, but that's pretty much it.
because
I don't-
nobody else does.
Yeah, I don't give a crap anymore. But I did, and I was safe until I could be vaccinated.
Yeah.
And, now that I'm vaccinated, yes, I still wear masks in
Right.
close quarters or whatever.
And going into our favorite movie theater, Collins Road Theaters, we wear a mask until we get seated.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'm glad that Collins Road is still around because they had it. I'm sure Bruce had it rough.
That was a 1-2 punch.
Yeah. I mean, they
you
were
you get the pandemic, and then we get this insane
derecho.
once in a lifetime derecho storm that gives us in Iowa hurricane style winds.
140 mile an hour sustained winds for come and go about 45 minutes.
Yeah,
but,
solid.
Yeah, but Bruce, I mean, he I know that he had they were looking at expanding into like a lounge area in the theater that next door, the shop to the left of the theater.
Oh, where currently he has just posters sitting.
Yeah,
in
he's
the
got
front
posters
windows.
and stuff sitting in the window. The plan was, from what I understand, they were going to expand into like a little lounge area where people kind of basically like expand the lobby a little bit and do kind of something a little bit more upscale, like what the Marcus Theaters did, or Warenberg, or whatever they're called this year.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And that was just before the pandemic hit.
But because Bruce is just he's one dude that owns one small theater in town, but it's one of the best in town. It is.
I agree.
I
like
think
the
it's
old
best in
style. I
town.
mean, it's an older style theater where it's not the stadium seating, but they go around. They take your orders for popcorn sometimes. I mean, they always give stuff away.
Yeah.
I mean, they do.
He introduces the movies personally, or at least did before pandemic.
Well, he was working that night, whatever manager, but it's pretty awesome that you don't get that kind of service at another theater typically. So
all the chains right now, and I think we're lucky to have all the AMCs.
And he was starting to
open.
get first run movies just before the pandemic too. He was for a long time he was second run. Classic movies.
Yeah, which was great.
Yeah, and now he's getting the first run stuff. But, I was very happy to watch Kong and Godzilla pound it out on the screen in my basement.
Your unique 12-foot screen.
Yeah. So I can see both sides of the argument though, because most people did watch it on a 50-inch TV, which does it no justice.
But it after all is said and done, Quiet Place 2 was really good. It picked up right where it didn't actually pick up right where the first one left off. It gave us a little origin story, just enough.
Really?
And then it jumps you in.
Was there a lot of talking?
No, but there was a lot of chair moving in row one right in front of me, which really was annoying considering the movie is called
I was actually
Quiet Place.
I was actually thinking, was it the movie a lot of dialogue? That's what I'm saying.
There was enough.
Yeah, okay. The first one there's hardly any.
Right. But you're on the edge of your seat still.
Oh yeah.
So that's the horrific thing that happened to me this week. So Chad,
yeah,
did you have anything horrific happen to you? I mean, it's what?
It
2nd of June right now when we're recording.
It wasn't horrific, but it was spooky.
Okay.
So I work in an office near Hawkeye Downs, and
Hawkeye Downs is on the outskirts of town.
Yeah, it's on the outskirts of town. Our office is above a plumbing supply company, but before that it was Kennedy Marine, and before that I have no idea, but it's right across the street from Hawkeye Downs, where there's been a lot of like deaths from car accidents and deaths from helicopter crashes. And
because Hawkeye Downs is
it's like racetrack,
racetrack.
And they also used to have the All Iowa Fair there, and lots of different things where they did like helicopter rides. And then there was a horrific helicopter crash where the pilot and the person died in it. Anyway,
that didn't happen.
No. But in the office, myself and several other people have seen and heard things when there's no one else in the office. And this morning I was at work before most of the people got there, but nothing happened this morning. Anyway, it was just myself and just a couple people. There was myself, a couple of my students, and then that was it. And I swear, to the left of me, someone cleared their throat. Like, and I looked, and I dropped everything I was doing. I walked around to see who the heck it was, and there's no one there.
There was no one else in that room.
No.
And you heard somebody clear their throat.
Yeah. So
arm hairs up.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't really arm hairs up. It was just, oh, hi, ghost. How are you? In the men's room, and of course, I'm not going to go there, but I spent a lot of time there. The toilet flushes by itself. The urinals. like once in a while the urinals will. Then the only way to get
Right.
them to do that, they're electric.
There's got to be somebody standing in front of it.
There's a
and then walking
shadow.
Away.
It's got to be a shadow.
Oh
And
no.
the sink is turned on by itself once while I was in there. I've been there for a number of years, but a lot of crazy things have happened there.
So you're thinking that the helicopter pilot might be?
Who knows what it is, but something's in the building for sure. For
Yeah.
sure, I'd seen a shadow. I mean, like it looked like I caught the edge of somebody kind of poking their head around a cubicle the other about. It was in January. It was in January because I remember who was in my class when it happened.
Yeah.
And then I was like walked over because there was a person that was sitting on the end of that row where that head had poked out, and I was going to go say hi. And I went over there, and there was nobody in the cubicle. And so then I walk around the cubicle, like there's nobody there. And then I go to the manager's office, which is right there by the cubicle. I'm like, did you see? Is so and so here? She's like, no, she's out today. I'm like, what? And she's like, looked at me like I was crazy, right? This manager's like, you're whatever, you didn't see anything. And then Friday that same week, it was myself and 4 students in the training room, and she comes back to the office. She's like, were you just out here out
So
in
you're
the
not
cubicle?
the only one
No.
seeing
And I'm like, no, I wasn't out there. And she's looking at me. She turns white as a sheet, and she's like, are you sure? I'm like, there's all 5 of us have been in here this whole time, because we were the only ones in the building. She's like, there. I swear, someone just walked around the cubicle to follow them to say hi, and there was nobody. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm not totally nuts.
Well, no, but you've experienced all kinds of this sort of thing
In my life, yeah.
Yeah, we can get into that.
I mean, at the haunt, even.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
when it was back at behind Xavier.
Right.
Yeah.
And we'll get into. I want to know more about that, but we'll get there.
Okay.
So, but you and I, we first met
Was
at the grocery store.
Yeah,
at
at the
Sunrise.
grocery store. Yeah.
And then a few
You were
years
like 12.
after that, we kind of didn't. I wasn't 12, like
15.
Chad, 16.
Okay. You hadn't hit puberty yet.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, yeah.
But then things happened, and we didn't see each other for a couple of years. And then I walked into the comic shop to pick up some books,
And then I got you
were
a job.
there. And you got me a job, and
Uh-huh.
and
And then you never left.
and then
And I did.
The rest was history, and here we are. And
Yeah.
And one day you invited me to a Halloween party.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't
Which
you?
one was this? Was this the one? This was the one at my mom's house, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned this on the show.
But we had one at my house when we lived on 22nd Avenue in the basement. Remember, I decorated it up one time. And then
was this before the party at your mom's?
This was, yes, 2 years before the party at my mom's.
Okay, so maybe I'm twisting my stories, but that's why you're here.
Yeah.
You're going to straighten this out. You're going to tell us.
It was almost before that one. I mean, it was like that New Year's party. Remember that? Was it New Year's?
No, that was July 4th.
July 4th. It was, shut up. Anyway, it was
Fire and
that,
Ice Night?
That party, yes.
That was
the
July
Yukon
4th.
Jack. Bad.
Lots of.
Never
Yeah.
again. That's when I learned.
didn't.
Well, that's when I learned not to drink heavily. Well, it took one more of those, but that was a Halloween party at my house. That was a whole nother thing.
I must not have been at that one.
Oh, yeah, I think you probably.
This is why I mostly drink just
Probably
beer,
were.
like tonight's Big Wave from Kona Brewing.
This is why I drink frosty root beer, because I don't usually drink real beer anymore very often.
No, we just used to do shots.
Yeah.
And so we were doing shots at your house for Halloween.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had a Halloween party. I decorated it up, and people were like, "Wow, you should really do something more." And that's when the bug kind of bit me. And then,
But you had just decorated for
yeah,
like,
no, I
fully
did
intended
one.
to be.
I did one room in the basement, and Kevin, our friend Kevin Coppice,
Yeah.
came over. And what I had done is I had, those, like a really lightweight skeleton that was
Okay.
blown plastic.
Yep.
I had rigged it up somehow, like on a mannequin stand, and then I tied some strings on some fishing line. Do you remember this now?
I do.
Yeah, and
It
so I
just
made it so
clicked.
the head turned. It was one of those talking skeleton heads.
It had a hinged jaw.
Yeah, it had a hinged jaw, and you use the microphone and it talked, but then I rigged up some arm, and I stood behind a curtain for a Halloween party.
Yeah.
And people would come down a couple at a time, and Kevin smacked, and we should do that again. I'm like, okay. And so that was kind of the birth of what was to become the Frightmare Forest, was that one display.
So it went from your house in the basement.
Yeah. Then
one little display of this puppet.
Then my mom had just got a new house. Well, it was new to her, an old Victorian house.
Very old house. With one of those classic, unfinished, really tiny,
it had a cold room and a basement. And she's like, you know what? Before I move in, how about you make a haunted house in the basement? I'm like, okay.
This was your mom's idea?
It was my mom and I. I'm like, can I use the basement? And
Yeah.
She goes, we should have a Halloween party. And that's all she had to say was, let's have a Halloween party, because that's her favorite thing. And I'm like, okay. Can I make a haunted house in the basement? She said yes. And so how many weeks did we work on that? Like 3? And
Don't ask me, because I just haunted. I didn't actually build.
So I used cardboard and made some walls. I took and made a dummy, so half of it was out of the washing machine. The thing is I set it all to music. I knew each room I wanted someone to be in there, because you could hear the sound. I mean, because I always had a soundtrack. And so I mixed it. This is before Adobe Audition or GarageBand. This is before computers, like where you were able to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, but before you could do stuff like that on with a computer, I just did it all with a cassette player and CDs. And so I used all kinds of cool, sound effects, and I had recorded some dialogue, and the actors would pop up in a couple different places, and that was, even your sister helped with that. Katie was in that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we had a DJ, Kevin Curl DJ'd the party. That was probably the best. That was one of the best Halloween parties ever.
And it wasn't because, we were drinking. It was because it was a Halloween party.
Yeah.
You see these movies, John Hughes type flicks, where there's a party. Add a little horror and Halloween flavor to it. And that's what this was. It was an absolutely classic party. My sister showed up in that demon costume with the little red horns and the tail, and it was so very Hollywood John Hughes.
I think we have 5 rooms in that, probably 4 or 5. And
if you count a washing machine with a creature coming out of it, room. But it was.
Well, I mean, you went through that, but there was 4 or 5 different displays in that tiny basement, which is probably not much bigger than your deck over there.
Yeah.
And it felt huge. Because
there was a knack. You had a knack. You found on your own. This wasn't like you had a podcast to listen to or a YouTube
I didn't have
video
training
to watch. It was go down to the basement, measure things out, staple some plastic, staple some cardboard.
What I had was a high school theater background, where I learned a lot from Mr. Smith at Wash, who's not there anymore, and Mr. Cervantes.
Yep.
And then Kenan Springer was in charge of the JC's Haunted House when it was at Coe College, where the baseball diamond is, where the softball baseball diamond is at Coe College. There was an orphanage there, and I had gone through that when I was in like 6th grade. But he showed me behind the scenes. He took me behind the scenes, and he's like, "This is this. This is this." And then I did join some Halloween groups. There were like forums back then, and email lists. So there's this thing called Howl 2000 and Halloween L. And I think there's some Facebook groups still. There's some people I know that are still on there, like Michael Hedstrom, for example.
Right. The classic.
And his wife, Kiba. So, I mean, like we started getting to know each other, and we learned from each other doing that. And then, those GeoCities pages, someone would do a Monster Mud demonstration and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But back then, I wasn't into it then. It was just, this is what I wanted to do. I just put it all together, and I'm like, there's the one episode of Happy Days where Richie gets scared because there's a skeleton in a closet and someone had made it move. And I think that's where I got the idea for the basement thing. From Happy Days, yeah. My mom was always going out of her way to scare the crap out of my brother and I.
I believe we talked about this on the KMN show at one point.
Ghostbusters came out. And Mohawk Park, is it Schaefer Park,
Schaefer Park.
where the frisbee golf course is there,
Right.
before they closed the road. So we went and saw Ghostbusters, and she took my brother, one of our friends, and she goes, let's get lost. I had no idea where we were. And then she goes in the park and pretends that it stalls, and scared the crap out of us. Just pretended it stalled. It was creepy, dark night.
Yeah.
You could hear the owls in the trees, and
Oh.
that's in my mind. That's what it was like.
The atmosphere.
Yeah, the
was
atmosphere
just
was definitely there. And she did that. Or we'd be watching a really scary movie on TV, and she would just cut the power to the house to mess with us. Like, cut the whole power. And it would be like a slasher film.
Yeah.
She'd be like, and we'd be screaming like teenage girls, And I can say that because I have 2 of them. So
You know that sound.
yes, very much so.
So your mom really was actually, I had mentioned
She was very influential.
your mom when we were talking about the origins of the haunt. I'm glad
Yeah.
that we're getting it from the horse's mouth right here, right now.
Yeah, I wish she could be here, but she passed away. So
Right. You recall the earliest haunt experiences that you may have had that may have helped to plant a seed, or do we
I've
just
always
go back
been
to your
scared.
story and go,
I've
your
always
mom
been
planted
scared.
that
I think
seed?
in my imagination, because my cousin would try to get me to go to haunted houses when I was a teenager, and I was too afraid of them. I seriously was.
Yeah.
I had this primal fear of going into a place, and I just swallowed a bug. Okay.
Is that a primal fear? Swallowing bugs?
No, protein.
How many bugs have we swallowed
A lot.
at our haunts?
Probably
in
a
our
lot.
day?
Anyway,
Yeah.
I had this primal fear of haunted houses. I think it started with the Happy Days episode, because I really was kind of scared, even though it was corny. I just had that fear.
We're going to have to find this episode of Happy Days.
It's a great episode.
Refer to it.
Yeah, it was a Halloween party. Yeah. Ralph
Wow.
Mouth was being a jerk, like always. And
But you hear these kids that, they saw the Nightmare on Elm Street movies and they had nightmares because of it, or...
yeah, well, I just had, it was
going
my
to their first
imagination
haunt.
more than anything. So my imagination just kind of made things scarier than they were.
After an episode of Happy Days...
Yeah, that was a long time ago, though. So
Oh,
I
of
had a long
course.
time for ideas to ferment in my head.
Yeah.
And so along with, Happy Days and stuff, I was really into watching any time that magic would come on television, like Doug Henning or David Copperfield,
Yep.
even Lance Burton, and, those kind of stage magicians that would
Right.
perform these huge illusions. I wanted to know how they were done. I needed to know. And I incorporated that into all my haunts.
You did. Our first year at Frightmare Forest, you had a Pepper's Ghost.
Yeah, well, I had 2 of them when it was at my house.
Right.
2 different ones. The first one I was really proud of, and I wish I would have gotten it recorded, because that was the very first one I did. And my idea for it was that you'd see an empty coffin, and as you were watching the coffin, a corpse would appear in the coffin. It'd sit up and talk to you and disappear again before it laid back down.
Like through the door, though. It would rise up out without the door opening, right?
Yeah, you'd see an open coffin.
Oh, an open coffin.
An open
Okay,
coffin,
okay.
and then the body would appear in the coffin,
Right.
and then sit up and talk to you, and then disappear before it laid back down again.
But I think that second year at the Frightmare Forest was when you had the exorcism, and that was a Pepper's Ghost.
That was a whole production.
That was an elaborate production.
Well, it was so every time. So that the first one was the open coffin, right? And a few people saw that, right? But that was
Mm-hmm.
before that was at a party. So that was at another Halloween party, but it was at my house.
Right.
We did that. That was in the garage. It was the garage.
Oh, the second house, the new house where you're at now.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we bought my grandfather's house back in the 90s when he passed away.
Right.
Like 97, 98. And so our first year in the house, I wanted to have a Halloween party, and that was not the flower room year. The flower room year was
But
after
Chad,
that.
when you say
But-
Halloween party, I say home haunt.
Now it's a home haunt. Back then it was a Halloween party. That was it. Now the year after that, it became a home haunt.
Right.
I
Where
mean,
we
that's-
had tickets and tips and.
Yeah, of course I maybe got $10 in tips or something like that.
Yeah,
if
but
I
the
was
fun
lucky.
that we got out of that was.
But man, my wife, we're still finding staples. So we used to have a carport over our driveway, and we basically, it only covered part of the driveway, but there was a space between the house and the garage that wasn't covered.
So there's the carport. Then there was the garage behind the carport.
Yeah, about heck, we engineered this, but we engineered some cover for some tarp that stayed for the most part. It blew down once, I think.
During our haunt
it took
season.
us stapling it to the front of the garage.
Yeah.
To the wood.
Where the staple got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the wood siding on there.
Right.
Which is now covered by vinyl siding. If I did that now, my wife would kill me.
Oh, of
She almost
course.
killed me back then. But anyway, when we did that, we created a much more elaborate. We had this hidden bookcase entrance. We had the creeper, which is a green monster that was kind of hanging up above you.
Creeper was
Then we had the chainsaw room, where you didn't know there was a chainsaw. Up against the chicken wire, he went with the chainsaw.
Uh-huh.
Then you had to crawl under the swing set thing where you saw the silhouette. That was the first silhouette murder room that we did.
Right.
And
right.
then from there, we went into the graveyard where your sister and Kale or somebody. No, it was your sister and was it you?
Me.
Your sister and
That's
you.
where I started.
Yeah. And then we had a hole in the ground. My wife about killed me about that too. A grave that I had dug in the ground. And then that was the first pneumatic prop that I built.
It was
with a
just
screen door opener.
Simple hydraulic with a hand attached to it.
Yeah, made a
with,
foam hand
yep.
that I just filled a glove with the spray foam.
Yep.
And we pulled it back with a rope, and then we'd come back up out of the ground, and people would jump. It was great.
And you got a lot of people listening right now that are thinking, "Oh my God, I did that at my very first haunt." Those tools.
But we started using monster mud that year too. So at the front door, we had a great big Grim Reaper thing. We called it the Greeter. And then we had the Creeper was one of our other monster mud things. And then I had this giant tree that we made that
I can
Amanda
still picture the tree.
We started off with paper mache, and then I'm like, oh, monster mud will work better.
And it was wrapped around like a chicken wire frame, wood with chicken wire.
Chicken wire sucks. I cut my finger so many times on all that stuff.
Yeah, but that
crazy.
tree was so dangerous.
Yeah, but it was so awesome that Hy-Vee
end.
in Mount Vernon in Marion, Hy-Vee in Marion bought one from me. I made one just for their produce department. For real.
What?
Yeah. That they wanted one. Somebody went through and they wanted one. They gave me like $300 to make one. The produce department at the Marion Hy-Vee.
How long did the one at your first home haunt? How long did that damn tree last?
Well, it ended up out the forest, and it took. I mean, it ended up being like full of bees. And,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but it lasted like 4 or 5 seasons at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it got creepier and creepier as time went by.
Yeah, and the burlap from the monster mud started to come off and
peeling, and
it was awesome.
Yep.
But from the graveyard scene, then we had that gargoyle that Danuke and I put together.
Oh, with the LED eyes.
Well, the LED eyes were night lights that I had rigged up.
Yep.
That they were LED.
Did it have a moving arm?
Yeah, it had an arm that moved. That was a rope. It wasn't an actuator. It was a rope arm move.
Yeah.
And the wings opened up. So the wings opened up.
Yeah.
And then they went into the garage, and that's where you were. You were in the flower room for a while.
I was in the flower room
once
for
in a
night.
while. Like we changed it up. We ran it how many nights? Like 4? Something like that.
It was 4 or 5 nights.
We had this completely
the
black room that had white flowers painted on the walls, and then you had a black outfit with white flowers.
Black sweatshirt, black sweatpants with white
hot
felt
glued to them.
Flowers glued, and I'd stand in the corner.
Yep, and then we had the grandma's hallway, where it was similar to the coffin, where the guy sat up and then disappeared. Right?
The
Pepper's ghost effect. But this one, I wanted one that didn't feel as enclosed as the box I had built for that. So I built a hallway, and I put a chair at the end of the hallway. And so the idea behind there is Grandma's ghost would appear when you called to her. And then she would appear sitting in the chair. She'd stand up and walk towards you, and then disappear before she got to you.
Now, just to preface, we had a host that year.
Oh yeah, we had a guy walk through and tell you the story, and
he was a tour guide essentially.
Yeah, and the audio was pre-recorded, but we had Danuke in the house. We did have digital audio that year.
Yeah,
and he had a camera that he could see when people got to that, so he knew when to it was walkie-talkie. It wasn't a camera. It was walkie-talkie. Cale was on a walkie the whole time.
Still relatively high tech for that.
And so when you got there, the grandma's ghost would appear, but her dialogue was pre-recorded, and the host talked.
Yep.
And then
because
I could freaking hear her in my head right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because we.
There's
we
certain
did it
sounds that when you're around them, as long as we were, they just
kind of like Michael Hedstrom's music that we played in the forest over and over again.
And Amanda's voice and that laugh and
the
thunder, the crack of the thunder, and
but
there's all those sounds that are still and you still have those MP3s.
Oh yeah, I have. So I'll go back to the exorcism room here in a second because, but after Grandma's ghost, then we had an organist that looked like it was a puppet. You looked like you were.
Looked like a robot. Or a pneumatic. And
then they would wait till the second or third person went by, and then they'd jump and scare him, and that was get him out the door.
Yep. And they went out the door.
That was super elaborate. I mean, like super elaborate.
For a home haunt, absolutely. Well, especially considering your garage was the size of your typical one-stall garage, two-stall garage.
I knew we did something special when we had the line that went. I have a pretty long driveway. Went all the way down the driveway and halfway down the block.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Me being inside the haunt, especially like in the flower room, smack in the middle of the haunt, what things looked like on the
If
on the
I
outside.
wouldn't have video recorded it, if Dave Danuke wouldn't have video recorded it, the Frightmare Forest never would have happened. For real.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
So at the time, I was working at Principal Insurance.
So we're at your house.
We're at my house.
You're
Danuke recorded it.
Danuke recorded this home haunt.
Yes.
Literally at your
home.
home.
And then he and I edited it together. And I'm like, oh, you should put "These are the Daves I know. These are the Daves I know." As you know, the from Kids in the Hall.
Right.
And then because Dave did all the editing, and I just kind of directed his editing a little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, you need to put this here. And let's put your driver's license on there, but cover up the numbers. And so his driver's license is at the beginning of this video that we produced just for us.
Yeah.
Right? And then it's on Facebook, actually. And then...
now it's on YouTube somewhere, isn't it?
Probably. Who knows?
It's got to be. Well, I know that there's some Canfield stuff out there on
YouTube. But anyway, so I'm at work, and I come to find out that one of the managers at work where I was working, her husband used to own the haunted trail behind Xavier High School.
Right.
Like, before Xavier was even there was a haunted trail out there.
Yeah, it was just a house with some big
Joe Seaman.
Forest property.
Yeah. Well, he had a construction company, and that trail was legendary. Like, fireballs in the sky, and he did some crazy stuff that we would never do.
There was I remember going out to that haunt once before I was part of what you did, and they had a platform that vibrated.
Oh yeah.
Zzz,
oh yeah.
And then you'd step off, and they had your hayrack ride around the haunt, and they had your typical mid-90s.
We never did a hayrack ride. We should have
stuff.
We should have. But anyway, I'm at work, and come to find out that her husband Joe, at the time, was the guy who'd had that.
Yeah.
But he broke his back in a construction accident and couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
So he sold all his stuff to the haunted trail in Ames, of all places. So all of his props and everything went...
Which is in Western Iowa.
Yeah, in Western
where
Iowa.
Iowa State University is at.
Right. Took that tape to work. I took it to work, and I'm like, I was showing it off in the break room.
You took a tape.
Yeah, it was a tape.
Yep.
It was actually... I took my handy cam with me, and I played it on the little screen on the handy cam.
Okay.
I was showing it off in the break room, and people were like, what? I sit down, and I plugged it into his TV at his house.
Okay.
And he's like, yeah, we used to do a Halloween thing here. I'm like, I didn't know anything about it. Like, really? And I show him the video, and his jaw hits the floor. He's like, I want you to bring it back to the forest. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, let's go for a walk.
He did it?
I have no idea. He goes, let's go for a walk. I go, okay. And we go out there.
Was this
he takes
at
me
night?
along. No, this was in the afternoon, after like 4, 5 o'clock.
Very different environment.
But yeah, but you could sure see there were still remnants of his trail, and still remnants of like the castle building, that was part of the original haunt.
Oh, and that was his.
That was his. The
Okay.
castle front, the castle facade that was out there.
Right.
We made it look better, but yeah. Anyway, so he takes me out there and he shows me, well, this is where we had this, and this is where we had this, and this is where we had this, and he goes, I want you to bring Halloween back here. I'm like, I can't afford this. I mean, like I paycheck to paycheck, I can't afford this.
Oh, of
He
course,
goes,
yeah.
well, if you can make it work, I'll lease you the land for $1.
Yeah.
And I said, what? Work between now and October? Yeah, I don't think you could do it. I don't think you should do it. I'm like, a lot of people told me no. They said, don't do it. There's no way.
What'd your wife say?
Chris is like, I don't know. She didn't. So the first year, she didn't believe it was going to happen. She just knew
At the
I was a
fort.
lot. She had no idea what I was doing, right? So I would talk to her about it, but I'm sure it sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, 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 haunted house, wah, wah, right? Ghost.
Pee, mwah, mwah.
No, we didn't do that then. We didn't know that
We
was going to
didn't
happen.
think about that, did we?
No, we just thought about, okay, let's just start building stuff. Now, I think I have this knack for suckering people into helping me. I really do. Tell me I'm wrong.
No.
Okay? I say so now.
But, Chad, we all love you for it.
Yeah, I mean, think of how many relationships that wouldn't be around if it wasn't for me.
There's probably children that have been born because of...
The Frightmare Forest.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
Yeah.
But I kind of created a community, and I didn't mean to. I needed help.
You had a bug, and it bit you.
And it
And
spread.
it just took off.
It was like COVID, only not. It was kind of cool. So I'm like, I had like Amanda and Kale and Dave, and then they started bringing friends, and other people started hanging out. Some people would come and go. Some people would be like, this ain't gonna happen. Nothing. I mean, I helped,
Yeah.
but I don't want to do it anymore. It's hot. There's bugs and skunks and turkeys and whatever out here.
And ghosts.
And it's like a 9-acre forest that he just gave me for $1. And man, we did some. I don't want to say we did damage to it, but we sure did take advantage of that forest.
You carved out a little piece of what's now history.
Yeah.
You just
The
took
shed.
what you had, what was available,
Yeah.
and just made it work.
Yeah, we made that mine shaft out of monster mud and whatever wood I could find out there, branches and stuff, and chicken wire. I hate that stuff. And then we buried a few mattresses, and we had this harness that some of the cable guys had. Oh, you like this one? We had a big guy up in the tree with a harness that we wanted to make it look like he was hanging.
Wasn't that...
Well, Kale. It
that was Kale.
Yeah, it was Kale once or twice. Oh yeah, I think Sparkles was up there once or twice too. But
Who nearly passed out because we forgot there were...
Was it him or Kale? I thought it was Kale.
Somebody.
It was
Okay,
Kale.
so we were getting prepared.
Yeah, so you have an artery that's in your legs,
It's
right?
a femoral artery.
Yeah, the
The
femoral
cats
artery
like to step on that one.
on both of your legs, and the strap around your legs that you're sitting on was blocking their femoral artery. I had
Put them in this harness.
that basically they're like sitting on this strap
And then pulled on the rope attached to this and
between their shoulder blades.
up into the trees.
Up into the trees they were, and that's where they'd sit most of the
And
night.
then you called a staff meeting.
Oh yeah, and then like there was a guy hanging in the tree, passed out because he had cut off the blood flow to his brain from the femoral artery.
Wasn't there a few minutes there where we were hearing?
Oh, that was. I think that was Sparkles.
Hey guys,
Hey guys, don't forget about me. Hello, I have to go to the bathroom.
hanging in the tree
Yeah,
during the staff meeting. Yeah. The stories.
but that first year, we built that facade, and that facade for the witch house.
Mm-hmm.
Damn sheer luck. Like door sitting there, I'm like, oh, this would kind of look like a house, and I just put some posts in the ground, and I attached the barn wood to it, and it looked like a freaking house.
It was that cobbled together.
It was that cobbled together, yeah.
But it was beautiful. It was perfect. It had that perfect atmosphere.
I learned art from my mom. My mom's an artist.
Now here we go back to your
So,
mom. What if Janet Canfield had never existed?
But I also learned set design from Mr. Smith at Wash. So yeah, I mean, I I learned that stuff. I just kept those skills on the back burner.
Wow.
And so I just kind of built it set pieces.
Yeah.
But yeah, they weren't real flats either. I mean, it was just, okay, I got these posts. Let's put this over here, make it look like a house.
Right.
And
so
like
if you saw it in the daylight, you'd be like, oh, what a rickety piece of junk. But then
the way I had it lit.
Bring down the lights, you bring down the sun, you throw up the lights, you add some Michael Hedstrom music and some Amanda giggling.
A couple long pallets down in front of it. It looked like a porch.
Yeah.
Put a rocking chair on it.
Yep.
And boom. It's amazing what you can turn junk into a set.
Yeah.
And for haunted houses, the one thing that I've learned is, and this has come later in my haunted house career, is you can do a lot with less. In the dark, you don't need all that detail.
Oh, no.
And a good friend of mine, Chris Moore, who did set design for Universal Studios, Horror Nights.
Right.
He did some set design for them, and his work is amazing. But he's got so much detail, and in the dark, you don't see it. And I'm like, Chris,
how many hours did you...
We're spending all this time, making all these other haunted house. I helped get it started, but Fifth Realm, whatever they're called now.
Yeah.
At Lindale.
The mall.
The mall. But, I mean, his sets were gorgeous. I mean, everything was just beautiful. And, first rate. But in the dark, you can't see it.
And when you're scared, you're tunnel visioned and you're blinded and you're running. And
yeah. There was my favorite room, and we had I'm just going to the haunted house that I helped him with his first year when it was at the Old Palace Theater. I had designed this house, and we had these really cool ideas with hidden passages. And this attic was going to have all these rafters and things.
Right.
Well, it was just the back of flats is all it ended up being, with a little bit of paint on it. And I think that was probably my favorite room in the haunt. There was no effects except for just strange lamps and boxes that were backlit.
The right music, the right lights, the right actors in the right places.
No detail.
That's all. Really, that's the
just a
heart
few props
of good haunting.
And that room, it was the actors in that room that made that room.
Right.
But
yep.
It was a very cool thing. But that haunt had two Peppers ghosts in it, a lot of really cool effects, but the one room that didn't have anything in it. It even creeped me out at night when we go to turn off the lights. So, yeah. Anyway, from the Frightmare Forest, though, I mean, it just kind of, I made a lot of friends, lost a couple friends in the forest somewhere. I don't know where they went, but...
Well, they're ghosts now, aren't they?
Something like that.
Or they're running around naked?
Yeah.
Oh, the stories.
The stories.
And so Frightmare Forest lasted how many years?
It's still going.
Frightmare Forest LLC. How many years did you?
Oh,
because
I
was out there 2 years.
I think I was there 3 or 4 years, and what happened is we had another child, Zoe. When after my second year, so it must have been my third year was my last year, because that's when the year after Zoe was born. And
because you were kind of a new dad again.
Yeah, I was a new dad again.
There was a lot of years between your first child and
11.
your second child. Okay.
And so I just didn't have time anymore to commit, because doing a haunt, what you don't know is you work on that crap all year round.
Oh, I know.
It's not just September, get it together and then open.
No.
It's a full-time job.
Yep.
And the only time money's coming in is October.
Yep.
If you're in it to make money, you're in the wrong business. You're in the very wrong business if you want to become a millionaire or get rich doing a haunted attraction. It's not going to
There
happen.
is a potential to make money, but then typically what ends up with that money, that money ends up back in the haunt to make improvements itself.
When you start getting electricity and because that first year we didn't really have much electricity. We ran off some generators.
Right.
And a lot of it was dark.
Yeah.
But
said, hand me that baton there, Chad, and we'll take over.
I think the original crew, people that were there every day, no pay, they were just there, and they would stay late at night and make sure that everything was going, even when I couldn't be there. I'm like, you guys are going to be my core crew. Let's incorporate. And Ian Austin and Corey Osborne, Larkin, Sam Williams, Jaden Cole, Josh Oberemt, I think.
These are some very heartfelt shout-outs because
Yeah.
they really did keep that torch lit for a
They
very
did.
long time. And to a certain extent, some of those individuals that are
Like
still
my
with
kids.
us, they're still your kids, and they're still involved in what many of you know by now as our home haunt, Circle of Ash.
Yeah. And it started in my basement.
Yeah.
So my backyard was the official first Frightmare anything.
Right,
It was
right.
Frightmare Manor.
But Chad, you are what you are, and it's made some of us the way that we are, and we thank you for that. And I'm sure that you've had an impact on the haunt community as a whole because you've met so many other industry leaders, people like Gore Galore and some of those guys, and
Yeah,
Michael Hedstrom and those guys have
Kevin
been around
Alvey
since
had
the
more of an
beginning.
impact on me than I had on him. Kevin from Gold Galore.
But we all
Yeah.
share and share alike, right?
Yeah, Kevin's a really good guy, and he has sent some business my way. He taught me how to make corpses, and I
Yeah.
made a whole business out of it.
You did. Corpses
For a
by
while.
Can Man. So
Yeah.
since we potentially have no video during this portion of the show,
Right.
considering we're still probably going to go to YouTube, what I want to do is just kind of run a slideshow
Of props I made in the past. And a lot of
corpses
them,
that you've
a lot
made.
of them are were in the Frightmare Forest at one time, and I'm sure there's quite a few of them still, like parts of them.
I think there are bits and pieces
Yeah.
of your handmade, crafted corpses in Circle of Ash now.
Yeah, if they didn't get burned up in the fire,
That's true.
but who knows?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But,
Or carried away in the
Are you-
floodwaters, or the tornado, or
the derecho.
yeah.
Are you making anything now? So this is how we wrap the show typically.
I have
Where
gone.
do people find you on the internet, Chad? And what do you do these days for the haunt industry?
Well, I have the CanManShow.com. I don't really do a lot of haunting anymore, other than helping people that come to me and ask me questions.
If somebody were to knock on your door and ask for a corpse, would you be able to do it?
If I had the material. I mean, what you're finding now is that the materials to make the ones of the caliber that I was making them, it costs me more to make them than people can afford to pay for them. So they're cost prohibitive. So that's the thing. It's
So
many
if somebody
hours.
wanted a work of art,
Yeah,
they could probably knock on your door.
they could. It'd take me a little bit to get the materials. I
Right.
know where to get them. Kevin Alvey, for example,
Right.
has some of the stuff that I would need.
Sure.
And I would just go, Kevin, can you send me some of this? And he'd go, yes, Chad, I would love to. It's been too long.
So if somebody wanted to really try to pull a corpse out of Chad, how would they do so?
Probably with a knife and, bloodletting tools. And, I imagine they would just need to cut me open. And
What? Why don't they
how would
just
they pull
email you?
my corpse? They could email me thecanmanshow@gmail.com or canmanshow@gmail.com or goodmorningcampers@gmail.com or
You still have.
I still have that, and then or canman1138@gmail.com. That's the one I get checked
Okay.
more often.
Do you have any social media that you'd like to refer people to, or do you just want to?
Canmanshow.com, facebook.com/canman. That's
So
my
you're
personal
everywhere.
page.
You're there.
Yeah, I don't do Instagram. I don't do the Twitter. I don't do the Tic Tac thing.
I don't either. But if you do want to find me, you can hunt me down on Facebook, Dan Alpers, or I am Dan.Alpers on Instagram.
I'm also
you
on
guys,
IMDb.
You
so-
are?
Yeah,
That's impressive. I don't even have a... But I'm not
I've
an
got
actor.
several credits on IMDb.
You do, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah.
So look up Chad Canfeild on
Because,
IMDb.
yeah, I do special effects work. I do acting. I do all kinds of stuff.
Chad, it's 2021 at this point in our lives. You're legendary. Your haunt experience is legendary, and we were so glad that you were able to join us for this special
You're just saying
episode
that because
of
we're
Rotten.
friends.
I love you, Chad.
I love you too, buddy.
Thank you. And hey, quick shout out because one reason that Michaela's not here tonight is because her boyfriend Noah is turning 24 today. So quick happy birthday to Noah.
Happy birthday, Noah. The shirt I'm wearing today is older than you.
Oh, God. On that note, we're going to wrap this episode of Rotten Flesh Radio, episode 4.
Yeah, it's too bad this is not going to be on the air before Friday because I will be performing live with Scott D at Family Game Night at Giving Tree Theater.
Are they going to record that?
No, probably not.
Is that something that's going to happen again in the future?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a monthly thing.
So where do people find that?
GivingTreeTheater.org, I believe, or .com, or just find them on Facebook. Just look up Giving Tree Theater Family Game Night, and we are the hosts of that. And Scott D, myself, and several other people do kind of like a Saturday Night Live show. They just had their first on Saturday. I was out of town, so I wasn't able to be part of it, but I was able to help the writers come up with better ideas. I mean, help them hone their stories.
Right.
Not better ideas. Their ideas were awesome. But it was show went off. It was sold out last Saturday night with the School of Rock.
And as we get closer to the end of the tunnel with COVID,
yes,
things are going to open up even more.
Things are opening up. Yep. So
good.
Looking forward to doing some comedy. So
because you're not just a haunter.
I'm way more than just a haunter.
Chad's kind of a Renaissance man, so now you know where to find him.
Yep.
And you found us at Rotten Flesh Radio.
And whatever.
RottenFleshRadio.com, of
.com.
course.
I don't know. It's like 2021. Could be like .tv, .xxx. I don't know what you do.
Make people pee their pants because a June bug just flew past our heads.
I'm not. My pants aren't being peed right now.
Yeah, I guess we don't get scared anymore, do we?
Rarely. My kids are getting pretty good at those, so don't tell them I said that. Anyway, thank you for listening. I'm on behalf of myself and Dan and Topher and Michaela. Thank you for listening to Rotten Flesh Radio. Peace.
Bye. Thank you, Chad.
Yeah.